Today we're going to talk about a whole bunch of honestly pretty damn fantastic changes, because after years of stagnancy, raids are finally changing. Blizzard are updating raid progression. But I don't know what I'm going to title this video, but down in my notes here I have Blizzard's capacity for self-sabotage is legendary as a candidate title. And the reason why is that Blizzard are scared. That has made them conservative, and it risks them undoing so much good work in how this system is paced. And I really, really hope that they fix this, because if they do, they're onto a real winner. Now, all of this comes from a recent blue post on the future of raiding. Blizzard basically said too many people found the Nerubar raid buff to be too complicated. It was a pain in the ass to track, especially when alts came into the picture. So seeing all the confusion, they realized they needed to do something, and ideally it would be a system that players already understand, that's already warband friendly, and that will let Blizzard reward us over weeks of play. And then it basically hit them. How about we just do a renown? So now, the Liberation of Undermine, the new raid, has got its own renown track, and it really does change a lot. The most important thing is that this is a 20 rank renown track, and it needs 20 rewards for it to make sense. So because of that, they started to, well, get cooking. And cook they did, because there are some really, really cool things that are specifically nice, flavorful, and quality of life filled for raiders, which is brilliant. And this is really going to work if we can change their mind on the massive mistake with pacing. First though, let's talk about the rewards. The way it works is like this. We zone into the raid at the hotel in the middle of Undermine, and the hotel lobby is actually the staging ground for the raid. Now, the first rank of renown comes with profession tables. Yes, so your raid starting hub gets profession tables. That's really nice, a massive upgrade. The second rank then gives us 2 new bonuses. Double eating speed for your food buffs, and it also drops a busted rune dispenser in the lobby. That gives you a chance at a free augment rune each week, so that's pretty good. Now at rank 3, the hotel gets transmog and item upgrade vendors, again dead handy. At rank 4, you'll get a rewards card. Now the rewards card is an in-raid Hearthstone that will take you back to the hub, which of course means if you get drops or whatever, you can go back, you can craft things, you can upgrade your drops, do whatever you need to do in the lobby area. Pretty neat. That's also where another thing kicks in, the damage and healing buff. Of course, a little like the Nerubar situation, but naturally paced through the renown rather than, you know, a quest that's got like items that you've got to pick up and all of that gumph. The next reward is pretty awesome though. So renown 5 adds repair stations around the raid. That is great. And it also removes the sated debuff, and that lets you pop lust for trash without having to train your mage or your hunter how to reset bosses. Again, brilliant. I mean, we've been doing that nonsense for 20 years, and they're finally putting an end to it. We can just bloodlust all the time to clear trash faster. Great. Now, at 6, we actually get a proper game changer here. It's a wipe recovery resurrection. So basically, it's an out-of-combat reincarnation, you know, like what a shaman can do, that you can use. Which basically just means that in a case where, say, you don't have somebody's soul stone to like mass res the raid after a wipe, yeah, you can just instantly get back up and you'll save yourself a bunch of running time. And on the topic of runtime, that rank also gets you a 10% out of combat movement speed buff. Now, renown 7 is just more of the health and damage buff. 8 brings a new kind of raid skip though. So this is universal, it's not per difficulty. Just hit renown 8 like once and you'll be able to skip to the last 2 bosses of the raid on any difficulty and any character, which again is brilliant. Renown 9 and 10 give us pets, which are based on the bosses, and they also strengthen the buff again. But, well, we get something quite new actually at Renown 11, a token. It's a counterfeit dealer's chip, and this can be traded in for a weapon appearance of your choice from across the different raid difficulties. Now, I can't confirm yet, but I think this might even mean you can get like a mythic weapon transmog if, like, you just really want that specific color. Pretty neat. Now, you get 2 of these in total. There's one at Renown 11 and then another at Renown 15. And once you get both of them, then the slot machine boss can actually drop them for you. Again, a pretty neat way, I think, to like work in the theme of the raid. And it also means if you're clearing across all alts and all difficulties, you'll end up picking a decent few of these up and you can make your way through transmogs. Renown 12 then is another first for WoW, Hot Sauce. It's basically a fire-breathing damage proc that Blizzard say scales with your raid consumables. So if you've got like your food, your flasks, and your enchants on, and you're popping potions in fights, then I guess your fire breath will do more damage. So that's kind of interesting. This is apparently something that they did to help scale up consumables instead of just them having to make new consumables with every tier to sort of keep them up in terms of power. Then as a nice touch, Renown 14 fixes the rune dispenser I mentioned at the start, and that means that you basically are guaranteed one augment rune every single week, and you've got a chance of getting more, which is, obviously not a game-changing thing, but I mean, if you just want to sell them off, then that's a little bit more income. But the biggest one, this is the big one. It's all the way at Renown 17, and it is the return of the dinar from the Shadowlands expansion. Of course, it's not called that. It's called a Puzzling Cartel Chip. You'll get one of these, and this will allow you to purchase a weapon, trinket, or a very rare item of your choice. Yes, a very rare item of your choice. That does include the big ticket ones. And basically because these are shared across all difficulties, Blizzard have said these will work as the Season 4 items did in Shadowlands. That means that they'll be able to scale all the way up to the maximum item level. That'll be, of course, with you doing upgrades. And combined with Gilded Crests coming from Delves, that basically means that, say if you're like a Heroic Raider, yeah, you can get a very rare weapon or trinket or, whatever item at like a maxed out item level, which is pretty damn insane. That's a hell of a lot of power, and honestly, those very rare items are often really, really fun, and if you don't get a drop, you just don't get to have that fun, so I think that's pretty good. There'll be a second one of these, which will be at Renown 19, but that'll be it. There's only 2 of them. But still, it's 2 items of your choice, upgradable all the way to the max, and that is, I'd say, actually fairly huge, especially when you remember that every single character you have will get them because this is a warband system. So if you log into one of your alts later on in the patch and you've already got these in your warband, well, yeah, you can just go and pick up a raid weapon and a very rare item immediately. It's honestly us reaching like unprecedented levels of just go play the video game, which is great. We get even more quality of life at Renown 18 because you get an auctioneer in the raid lobby, which basically means if you're a true raid logger and you never want to like leave the raid, cool, you don't have to for your consumables. There's an auction house in the raid. Yeah, it's kind of insane. And by that time, you'll also have a total of a 30% bonus to move speed out of combat. And of course, at rank 20, the Renown ends, and this one is purely cosmetic. You get the title High Roller, you get a teleport directly to the raid from anywhere in the world, just like the dungeon teleports, and you get the Furious Flare Nado mount, which basically is, it's the robot dinosaur that you'll have seen plenty of in social media. You get one of those, it's pretty great. Now, Blizzard did say the rewards are all subject to change, but honestly, as it stands, this ranges from stuff that's pretty cool to holy shit, this changes everything levels of stuff. Like just being able to pick up different items, transmogs, that'll be pretty cool, even just for progressing other parts of your character, and having a cool raid themed mount that's just there for everybody for completely progressing through the raid. I think that's really great. And all of the quality of life stuff that is here as well. One of the things that is so annoying, in my guild had so many complaints with Naru Bar, is you got no upgrade NPCs there. The repair spots are shitty, there's barely any skips, and there's the whole dumb slime move speed potions, and this system basically fixes all of those things. Going through the reward list really does make me think of that Vince McMahon gif where he's just absolutely pogging out and falls off his chair. But the monkey's paw always curls. So now we've got to talk about how this system actually works. The answer to how this works is fairly simple. It's a renown, so it works mostly like other renowns, but this time around, there is a hard weekly cap. Yeah, the other renowns are gated in a way because you can only get so much reputation, but here the way it works is this. As normal, you need 2,500 rep to go up a rank. The raid has got a total of 5,000 rep available across all of the bosses and trash. So the way you progress this is simple. You go in, you kill stuff as usual. As you do, you'll get loads of reputation. It basically works like raid reps, even going as far back as the Hydroxy and Waterlords from Molten Core. And of course, you'll notice that there's 5,000 rep in the raid, but the cap only goes up by 2,500 a week. Blizzard have done that to make sure that groups who are still progressing can actually still get their renowns each week, instead of having absolutely glacial, progress, or maybe having to go to, say, LFR just to clear it for the reputation. That side of things, I'd say, is, fairly good. Now, catch-up is going to be handled in a similar way to Naru Bar, where basically the game will recognize how far behind you are, and it will increase the amount of rep that you earn to catch you up quickly, which, in a way, is great and player-friendly. In another way, it's rubber banding that diminishes the meaning of your progress. Blizzard have always found it hard to balance this sort of thing. But before I go into the skewering of that, it is worth noting that with this working the way that it does, especially with the rewards that it has, if you're just a casual player, this kind of means that you can like go do LFR, actually have like quite a progression thing to go to that has actually got some pretty cool rewards. Now that being said, what if you in no way want to do this? Well, here's actually a sort of neat thing. This is not going to go away from the game, right? So whenever the season ends and this is no longer the current raid, it's still going to be there. So in 2 expansions time, you could head back and grind up this rep, I suppose just like any other rep, which does mean that this is kind of content and a thing to progress through that will stand to the game forever, which is a real good thing. But of course, there is bad news. Let's talk about the cap. Whenever the raid opens at the start of Season 2, the cap will be 2, Renown Level 2, and it will go up by 1 Renown level per week. And this is where I've got to say, I just think about my progress last season and sort of say, Blizzard, kind of fucked it. Yeah, no, this is too slow. Stop. Hang on. We need to salvage this. As an example, take that gear token, right? That gear token is at Renown 17. That means that you'll get to it by week 16. Now, my guild is usually done with heroic progression in 6 to 8 weeks. We only do 2 nights a week. We're pretty casual and chill about things. We're not going to get that stuff. And especially with how Blizzard have made heroic raids way easier, we'll be done in 8 weeks. We would need to grind out like another 8 weeks to get just that reward. Or if we were being smart about it, we would just take some time off and then blast the rest of the reputation out after that. Or maybe just, I don't know, go do LFR for the sake of the rep. I don't really think that's great, to be honest. I mean, hitting Renown level 20 takes 19 weeks. 19 weeks, that's crazy. That is almost 4 months. And that will get boring if it's people just doing a weekly raid. But of course, the way their system works incentivizes you to clear the raid once every fortnight, which then just kind of means that your character progress is very much based on the catch-up system. And I really just don't think that's the right way to do it. I don't think that's motivating for people. And I guess there are ways out here. I mean, one thing you could do is just have the cap increase by 5,000 a week, actually just speed it up and still have some catch up, I suppose. Another thing is just to reshuffle the rewards. I mean, if you think about those loot tokens, if they were for regular gear, them being at like 17 and 19 makes no sense because at weeks 16 and 18, you're going to be geared up. You won't really need that gear unless it's one of those very rare items, I suppose. But I do think there's a foundational point here because if a raid team is still progressing, say, heroic mode by, week like 16 or 18, these very rares and stuff, they won't really be that useful. Those are the people who usually would be relying on Blizzard just nerfing a boss or the actually designed nerf, which is the damage and healing buffs that happen. That's what happened in Narubar as an example. But right now, you get the 3% damage and healing buffs at week like 6, 10, 13, and 16. But I then say, like, Blizzard, do you know what gear does? Gear improves our damage and our healing. That's why Blizzard added Thunderforged gear, Warforged gear, and then Titanforged gear to WoW. They wanted it so that whenever people kept on re-clearing a raid, they could get slightly better gear to increase their chances of clearing bosses. Now, if you want to improve player power, I would say the best way to do that, first, is via gear, and second via buffs, because if you do it via gear, it does feel more earned and player driven and interactive because it's somebody building out their character. So with these gear tokens, I think they should be swapped into an earlier place in this Renown. Yeah, I think they should be there earlier so the people are progressing because they're gearing up and building their characters, and then the just flat damage healing buffs perhaps happen later. And we also need to take this in context because there is a piece of guaranteed gear that many players got near the very start of a season that they're not going to get this time round. That's because Blizzard are removing the gear token from the Keystone Master, PvP 1600 rating, or ahead of the curve achievement. That's how a lot of people would have completed their like 2-set or 4-set early on in a raid season. So as an example, say it's like week 6. There's a guild who is progging the 3rd to last boss. What would feel better to that guild? That they unlock a gear token, people kit out their characters with some cool new things, maybe, I don't know, some tier sets are completed, somebody gets a weapon that's really good, and then they progress the boss. Or they progress the boss because everybody just got a 3% flat buff. I mean, come on, it's obvious that one of those is going to feel better than the other. I think that's player psychology 101. Now, there is another option as well. How about this? You could get either a boost to reputation for defeating Galliwix on like normal, then maybe another one on heroic. So if your guild has completed their main goal, like say ahead of the curve, but still needs 12 weeks worth of rep to like get the title and the mount, I mean, Blizzard, you're basically telling people to either show up and go through the motions, or to stop and wait until catch-up means that it's way less of a grind. Neither of these are good ways to engage players. Now, to be completely clear, I think this is a well-intentioned system. I think that most actually of its parts are really, really cool. This is fundamentally exciting to me, and I think it will be really healthy for the future of the game. But I also know World of Warcraft players and time gating. They are really, it's quite a mix at this stage. Like, come on, we've been talking about time gating for such a goddamn long time, and I understand all of Blizzard's fear-based reasons to not let this be a speedy thing, and the reasons why they would want to like gate it for the sake of fairness and balance between the different difficulty modes. But that being said, WoW's not an esport, and I do think that WoW tends to be more defensive in its reward design than most video games. I mean, as an example, look at the Siren Isle, which is where you'll get your veteran catch-up gear. But then you look at Delves, and the little Murloc dude who sells you what's supposed to be alt catch-up gear from Delves. And from the start of the expansion, it's been completely useless. That's a great example of something that made sense to be there, but its implementation meant that to players, it was of fundamentally zero value. But that said, there is one thing here that is of good value. What this system and this raid does is up the level of flavor and storytelling, though of course they could do it a little bit more. Blizzard said one of their stated goals here is actually storytelling. The quote is, "Supplement the storytelling and setting of the raid to improve immersion and flavor." And I think they basically are doing a good bit of that, but not really as much as we perhaps could have. I mean, I don't know, I think about like Varian and Saurfang and ICC, the rings, of course, that we were then in ICC able to eventually buy with the Ashen Verdict, our buffs and our bonuses, those things feeling like they're maybe more part of the raid. Like, I do like the way that it's your like Galagio membership card. But in the future, what I'd love to see is these buffs coming from NPCs. There being story to these buffs, story to these rewards, so that it, I mean, in this example, would systemically really feel like we're liberating Undermine bit by bit, rather than just upgrading our rewards card at a hotel. That being said, I do like the flavor that they've got here, and I think this is a serious step forward. If they do it right, this will be big for WoW going forward. It will be big for raiding, and at least in my view, raiding in a lot of its design, I don't mean bosses, I mean just like the overall system, it has been stagnant for a very, very, very long time. This is it finally moving and shaking, and I love to see that. With a bit of a tweak to timing and rewards, this will be a banger, and honestly, this is only their first draft, so I'm excited for the future. The potential is really big, I want it to succeed, and well, if you'd like to see another game feature, check out what they're doing with Delves, because if you're an LFR normal or heroic raider, and you maybe don't like Mythic Plus, damn, it matters to you.